You've tuned into another edition of The Break Room, a weekly conversation about how the City of St. Augustine works from those who do the work every day. Hosted by the City of St. Augustine's Communications Director, Melissa Whistle, The Break Room offers a closer look at the different city departments and provides updates on current and upcoming projects and events. And now, your host, Melissa Whistle.
Welcome to The Break Room. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Melissa Whistle, Communications Director for the City of St. Augustine. This week, I'm sharing the break room with the city's very own archaeologist, Andrea White. Andrea, welcome, and thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for inviting me back, Melissa.
So every year in March, we celebrate Archaeology Month in Florida, and this year was no different. Even with COVID ever present in our lives, archaeology really doesn't take a break, and we take it pretty seriously here in the nation's oldest city.
We do. We have our Archaeological Preservation Ordinance, which was passed in 1986, and we started an archaeology program in 1990. So we're going strong for over 3 decades. We're pretty excited about that. Yeah.
And establishing that ordinance really gave us a leg to stand on in terms of requiring the preservation of our history that we are digging up, if you will. It's not just about the buildings, but in your case, it's the discovery of things that we don't see on the surface.
Yeah, so one of the things that archaeology does is complement the historical record. There's a lot of things that are not documented or people who are underrepresented in the historical record. So with archaeology, we're able to add more information to that. One of the things and one of the sites, a couple different sites we've been working on this past year, have actually been Native American sites that predate the Spanish occupation of our city. And so some of the sites, one is the Young Avenue site, which is actually behind the Alligator Farm. So it's on Anastasia Island. And it has some of the earliest pottery in North America. It goes back over 4,000 years, that pottery. And what's really, I think, cool about the pottery is the Native peoples were just learning how to mold clay and fire it into pots. And so that clay, they actually took Spanish moss and they wove it into the clay to kind of give it what we call a temper, so that when you fire it, it doesn't break apart. So, and then it burns out. So it leaves looks like little wormholes in the pottery. Yeah, it's really cool. And eventually they started decorating that pottery with inscribing and designs. So we got a chance to go back to the Young Avenue site early this year and do some more documentation. And then we also got to revisit some earlier collections that were dug up in, I think, 2007 and 2008 by the former city archaeologist, Carl Halbert. So we've had a student from the University of Florida look at that collection and reanalyze it a little bit to give us some more information on how that pottery was changing through time and the people that were living there. So she's working on that paper right now. So it's been kind of cool to go back and revisit that site and learn more. Each time we go back either to the same property or to a site nearby, a property we already excavated on, it's like one more piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Like it's one more little bit of information that we get to be able to reconstruct the past.
So when you collect these pieces of pottery or whatever it is that you find in the ground, you take it back to a lab? What do you do with it, and how do we ever see it?
Yeah, that's one of the questions we get a lot. Everyone's like, why isn't everything on display? And I think once people see what we get out of the ground, a lot of people are like, oh,
that's it?
because it's discarded material. It's trash, essentially. So a lot of it is broken pieces of pottery, broken glass, broken animal bone. So it's not very exciting. But I always say, I can tell a lot about you. If I collected your trash for a year, I could tell a lot about what was happening in your household. And if I compared trash from a couple years ago to trash from the last year, I could probably tell, something's going on.
Something
There's a lot of
in
disposable
the
masks. And, so I could maybe predict that there was a pandemic or some type of health issue happening in your household. So we take it all back to the lab. That's where I think a lot of the fun begins. Every day we spend in the field is about 4 days in the lab. So you have to wash the artifacts, process them. You have to then analyze them, figure out what they are. record all that information down. Then there's computer programs where we enter that information. Then you have to take all the recorded information when you're in the field, because you take photographs, you take copious amounts of notes, and then you have to interpret all that. And then you have to curate it so that it's for permanent storage.
Okay.
So that, like, we just went back to that old collection from 12 years ago, that you can go back and revisit that collection, because there's always new technologies coming out. DNA analysis was something that we didn't know about 20 years ago, but now it's pretty common.
Part of it. It's part of what you do.
Yeah, so that's one of the things, is since we've been working and doing archaeology in the city of St. Augustine, or archaeology sponsored by the city for over 30 years, we've gotten a pretty big collection. So now we need to be curating that collection as best as possible for long-term preservation. And we can have a lot more control over the preservation of that collection than we can, say, preserving sites in the ground that we may not even know what's in those sites.
Right.
That's one of the things that came out of the Resilient Heritage Grant that was recently done for archaeology specifically, was to focus on working on preserving the collections that are in the Dr. Sue Middleton Archaeology Center.
Awesome. Just real quick, I want to let folks know that you are listening to The Break Room. I'm Melissa Whistle, Communications Director for the City of St. Augustine. And today I'm sharing The Break Room with Andrea White, the city's very own archaeologist. So let's go right back to that. The Sue Middleton Archaeology Center, Dr. Sue Middleton Archaeology Center. Tell us about it. That's your facility. That's your office.
Yes, it's the Archaeology Center, the Archaeology Lab, sometimes people more commonly call it. And it is a great space. On April 3rd, we will be celebrating 10 years of being in that space. So we're pretty excited. That space came about because we had a very generous donation for Dr. Sue Middleton several years ago that was able to renovate that space for archaeology. Before the archaeology program was over at the the current water treatment plant, and then was housed at, I think, Government House for several years. And so now we have this great space that we have for our lab and our offices and all the curation storage.
Everything you've got in the archives, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
And talking a little bit about sharing it with the public, we've been trying to help you guys out and sharing your finds by putting it on the city's Facebook page. You guys are going to hopefully start your own. We're working on that with you.
Yeah.
We're going to get you up on Instagram. And I believe the handle is going to be City St. Aug Archaeology.
Yes.
So everybody needs to stay tuned for that, and we'll make sure to let folks know when we're out there. But that really is a cool way to tell the story, to show the artifacts, to really get people engaged with what we're finding.
Yeah, because people are used to seeing us out in the streets and inside buildings doing the digging part of the archaeology. That's just kind of like the information collecting. But then we take it back to the lab, and a lot more discoveries and interpretations happen there, but it's harder to share that with the public. So since we haven't been able, unfortunately, to do our open houses this year or last year, we thought social media would be a good way to kind of share some fun tidbits and things that we're discovering. And so hopefully we'll get to continue sharing all those information over social media. So.
Well, we look forward to that, and I do look forward to the day when we can have those tours. We did those. Did we only do those for 1 year?
I think we've done them 2 years.
Maybe we did them for 2, and they were very popular. People were really excited about it. And you said you were having to kick people out because you had 2 rotations of tours, and people just wanted to linger and look around.
Yeah, we only have so much space, even though it's a decent size facility. Once you put all the boxes of artifacts and everything else that you need in there, we have to keep fire marshal code standards of occupancy and things like that. So
what are you working on now? Is there anything to share with our listeners about what you've got going on now, or what we can look to see from you guys other than a sneak peek at things on social media?
Yeah, so we have 2 different grants that we're working on wrapping up. One is really just helping us organize and map through GIS all of the projects we've done over the last 35 years. So that's will be a very helpful tool for us to be able to more rapidly assess projects and start piecing those jigsaw
Right.
puzzle pieces
Mhm.
together. And then we also have an educational and outreach grant that we're working on that will be 4 different story maps that will have 4 different themes that we hopefully by the end of the year will be out sharing with everyone.
And a story map is an online digital story.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically an interactive, it has GIS components. So a lot of times it has maps that you can zoom in and zoom out of. And it also is very interactive with different locations that you can travel through. Each one's set up kind of differently based on the theme and how that story will be told.
Okay. But it's pictures, it's narrative.
Yes, it's much more engaging with visual content more so and geographic content than, it has text, but it's not just
a Google map.
text.
It's not just a Google map with a little dot on it.
No, it's a lot more interactive and it'll hopefully convey some really cool, interesting stories about St. Augustine's archaeology and history.
You mentioned being on the island
Mm-hmm.
and downtown. Is there a certain threshold or a reason why you get called in on a certain project? Why do I need to have the archaeologist come?
So we have archaeology zones. We have 18 of them. And there already is a story map today already created if anyone's interested on looking at where those zones are and a little bit of information on why they are archaeological zones. But there are different areas that we either know people have lived in the past or they're areas where we have pretty high confidence they have lived in the past. And that's one of the things our grant's going to look at is look at those zones and see, okay, have we found anything here? Maybe we don't need to have that as a zone anymore.
Okay.
It's going to give us some recommendations for moving forward in the future.
Okay, but if I'm living in that zone, that's what it is. So if I'm in the zone, I need you to come and check out my backyard. Is it?
It depends on the type of project that you're doing.
Okay.
So if you're getting a building permit or you're getting a street right-of-way permit, and it's over a certain threshold, like over 100 square feet, then your project will get reviewed, and then we'll say if we need to do anything. Sometimes we just need to do monitoring. But if it's something small or if you're doing gardening, that would not trigger the archaeology preservation ordinance.
I know that there are some establishments downtown that dread having to do work sometimes on their businesses because they know they have to call you and they hold their breath when you walk through the door to hope that you don't find something because otherwise they have to stop everything they're doing until you can get in there and just make sure.
Yeah, we try really hard. I think people that have establishments downtown are sort of used to what has to happen. We try really hard to come in beforehand and do our work. That's why we always recommend that if you know you're going to have to do something, let us know as soon as possible so we can work you into our schedule and make the process as painless as possible.
And quick.
Yes.
Well, and for you, it's always exciting to find something, but there are ripple effects of that.
Yes. Sometimes we are really busy, so we actually hold our breath too and hope that maybe we won't find something so that we can continue on with other projects.
Well, Andrea, it's great, as always, having you come to the break room. The archaeology that you do is really cool and fascinating, so it's always a joy to have you here.
Well, we always enjoy being invited and getting to share a little bit more about what we're doing.
We'll get you back in here and when you dig up something else to tell us about.
Sounds good.
As we wrap up another edition of The Break Room, I hope we answered your questions. If we didn't, take a minute and drop an email. You can send that to info@citysanog.com. Let me know if we missed something or if there's someone you would like to hear from. We want to keep you informed about what's happening in and around the city, and most importantly, that you hear it here from the people doing the work and making it happen every day. Remember that in order to stay connected, you need to be connected. Like us and follow us on all of our social media platforms. You'll find the city on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at City St. Aug. And soon you will find the Archaeology Department on Instagram at City St. Aug Archaeology. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.
You've been listening to The Break Room, a weekly program addressing projects and programs offered by the City of St. Augustine. Join us each week as the city's communications director, Melissa Whistle, has in-depth conversations with the people who make our town work to meet the needs of our community. The Break Room is produced by communications specialist for the City of St. Augustine, Cindy Walker, and engineered by Flagler College communication major, Lily McNeil. See you at this time next week for another edition of The Break Room.